Welcome back to the TowerCast Podcast, the towering podcast for the towering filmmaker of El Paso and the world. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're a very exciting guest, very exciting episode. We're going to talk about some a crazy career, I think, that I'm excited to hear a little bit of the trajectory on, but I'm even more excited about the latest film this man has worked on. Before I introduce our special guest, let me introduce everybody in the room. Mr. Ricky Rodriguez in the back. Make sure we're sounding and looking good back there. Mr. Jean-Eric Oster offering an acting perspective.
How you guys doing?
Mr. Michael Dalao offering a cinematography perspective.
Hey guys.
I'm your humble film servant, Carlos M. de la Torre, offering a writing directing perspective. And we have another writer-director in the room, which is very exciting to talk about because normally I'd say we have another producer in the room who's got a massive amount of insight, but now having the film that we had the pleasure of screening is going to be very exciting to talk about his new film.
Absolutely.
Our hero, Balthazar, is Oscar Boyson's in the room with us.
What's up, guys?
Yes.
Oscar, thanks for being in El Paso, man.
My
Weirdly
pleasure.
enough, bringing the film out here and
Doing the road show,
and
man.
coming to the studio to do the podcast, man. Thank you for coming out.
My pleasure. It's my first time. I'm having a blast, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get excited to talk about your new film, Our Hero Balthazar. But before we get there, we always kick off the podcast asking our guests, what made you want to become a storyteller, man? What was the journey there to say, this is a crazy fucking industry to get into? And you don't really learn that until you're really in the thick of it. But there is this desire to want to become a storyteller because you see stories and you see films and you're like, man, I love that. I want to do that. What was that like for you? What made you want to become a storyteller?
I growing up in the '90s, you know, I'm a '90s kid, and we just had such a healthy independent film scene. You know, array of different movies that you could go see at the theater. That and also a great Hollywood era, the '90s. You know, the movies that were coming out every weekend, and that was a time where you wanted to go see like one or two, maybe even three movies each weekend just to be part of the conversation.
You also had a big indie boom in the '90s that was pretty insane. That kind of changed the industry forever.
And I think as a kid, it just looked. I wanted to participate. You know, it looked like the best job in the world. And I guess I was enough of a dreamer to keep pursuing it. And then one day you kind of wake up and you're too old to do anything else.
But that's a key word, a dreamer. You need to be a dreamer.
Like a film school route, or what'd you do?
I when I was 17 years old, I'm from a very small town, and I went to when I was 17, I went to a summer program for like film nerds, aspiring filmmakers. That's where I met Ricky Camilleri, who
Your co-writer,
I wrote this movie with, and we've written a lot of scripts together. But that was kind of the first time where I
Found that community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you know you grow up and you're making movies, and I was definitely like the guy in my town, whether it was like, you know, the movie for the field hockey team at the end of the season, or like the highlight movie, or you know, like my version of a John Woo film starring like my only Asian friend, you know.
So you were like us. You were the crazy kids running around El Paso making films, and you were that kid.
And I mean, it's also about the timing, right? Like in the late '90s, early 2000s, Final Cut Pro had just come out. I got a Canon GL1, you know, which was still like a lot of money, but it was way more affordable than cameras that you make movies on had traditionally been. Yeah. And I mean, that's felt like it was all I did was just edit videos and learn and edit and shoot. And the fact that there were also there were filmmakers who were making things on more of a scale with the same tools, right? It also that made it seem more accessible. It made it seem like it wasn't a giant leap to be a part of that world. When you have Lars von Trier, or you have, I mean, even Michael Mann is shooting video in the early 2000s, right? Like, or 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Dogma 95 guys were doing something special. And I mean, we just had Kevin Smith on the podcast, and to hear his story, Linklater's story. I mean, all these guys were doing something that at the end of the day, they just felt it was accessible to make a movie finally.
Yeah.
And that changed the game. I mean, I wonder, there was a question in this documentary, which I'm sure you've seen, I'd love, is called Side by Side, and it shows you the film side and when celluloid went into digital and which side are you staying on, and that's what the documentary's in. But they ask, I think the head of Sony in the doc, like, do you think that makes the accessibility makes for more good film? And he's like, no. He's like, that's the other thing. He's like, there's a lot more in terms of volume, but is there a lot more? So, like, people aren't sitting to think about their movies. And I you don't strike me as that kind of guy. It's in our many conversations. Do you feel
That
like
thinks about my movies.
Yeah, exactly. No, the other way is what I mean. The accessibility factor seems to excite you and give you the confidence to be able to do it, but it seems like you were very, very meticulous about making the film, writing the film, preparing to do the thing, not just have a camera that's easily accessible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there is something beautiful about if you can create the production environment, if you can create, if it's expensive, but if you can design a scenario where you get to, kind of right with the camera, right? Like, I think of the guys who did Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. When they talk about it, they're like, we would just try this and see what happened. More like a documentary.
Sure.
That can be that can be so beautiful to sort of be in the creative flow all the time. But that's most directors don't get to do that.
Sure.
At least if they want to also have a big crew, right? So I think it's respect for the work and wanting to be prepared for to give everybody a shot at, like, to put everybody in a position to do their best work.
Yeah,
right.
that's
really
important.
what it comes down to.
That's kind of why you like find your wings in the indie route, right? Because you're playing in the structured organization of, like, we're making a film and everything. But if you wanted to grab the camera to just look at an angle, explore something, you still could.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so formal and
Pigeonholed,
strict about
too.
the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and I think the more stuff you make, the more you're aware of how many different ways it can go, even if you
Your
are
awareness.
super prepared, right?
Yeah,
Like-
there has to be a balance, right? I mean, at the end of the day, though, there's this commerce. I have to make my time factor because time is money in a film production set. It's an art form. At the end of the day, there does have to be a balance of, like, well, but I have to capture what this film needs. I think that's incredibly important. And to that point, I wonder if this translated for you, because I remember you told me something the last time we spoke over the phone that you were saying, well, if we look back at your career, naturally, in terms of credits, you have a lot in a producing role, but you were like, well, I was always the author. I always wanted to be the author of the film, and I always wanted to write and direct, and I always did that. So,
Did you ever think about acting coming from the indie?
Not really, but I mean, like, Ricky and I will act everything out as we're writing it to try to make sure it's working and
To hear it out, kind of see
Yeah.
how it would act.
Yeah. If somebody asked me to do something, I've been in a few.
So you have, right? So you've dabbled with it just to kind of understand that side of it.
Yeah, I wish I'd taken more acting classes when I was in college. Like, I took one and it was so great. I remember it. And I think a lot of filmmakers probably, at least when they're starting out, are sort of afraid of actors. Like, they're more inclined to focus on the shots and
That is true.
versus really getting into it with the actor and thinking of it.
What do you
from the
think that
actor's
is?
perspective.
You think you're gonna, like, overstep on their craft, or?
I just think I think probably. I mean, the people who come from, like, a film school, just the way you sort of think about it at the beginning is more like my job is to design shots, right? Like,
Right.
I know that sometimes that goes to the cinematographer, but I think that like classic stereotypical film school guy is thinking about like David Fincher and Stanley Kubrick, and they're probably thinking that, you know, Jack Nicholson in The Shining that's coming more from Jack Nicholson. It's not really on them.
Right.
But what is on them is creating this feeling with like the music and the slow motion and the
and on set creating the space
shots
for the actor to play, right? Creating this ambience or creating the world where the actor can play.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a good balance of that. I mean, as a director, the exploration of like, casting is 90% of the heavy lifting, I think, for making the film work. But I think it's also when you find the right actor, I would hope, I intend to draw it out of the actor. There has to be a good balance. And like, I love pre-production with an actor. I love getting on Zoom calls and exploring the character and getting emails at 3 a.m. of like, I had to stop. What if she does this? What if he does that? I think that part's so crucial to inform the actor down the line, as opposed to being like, well, we got the right guy. They got paid, so let them do their thing.
Yeah.
I think in your new film, you really have that. I think as a director, you really drew it out of these guys. I mean, now, before we kind of like dig deep into that, do you feel like all of this that you've picked up on informed you as a producer? Like, as you're getting your films ready, you're kind of like, well, I stepped into a producer role, and logistically, I just have to put these things together. Do you feel like your trajectory up to that point? Or was it just like, well, I got on as a producer, and then that went well, and jumped on as the next thing as a producer, and kind of...
Yeah, I mean, really the producing other people's movies just came from wanting experience. And movies, I think, unless you... for most of us, you know, it's hard to get your foot in the door, and it's hard to get the experience to... especially having real responsibility in those set experiences. So for me to get involved with Francis Ha and the movies that I did with Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, or the Safdie movies too, it felt more like just trying to get experience and learn and work with my friends too and help them make their projects.
How did that come about in terms of like, I mean, Francis Ha, to kind of maybe start there, that's at the time, Noah Baumbach was not quite. I mean, they're not making Barbie quite yet.
No,
but they're making these incredibly.
He was Academy Award nominated for Squid and the Whale.
Yeah, for Squid and the Whale. I mean, but they're making some very interesting pieces. I mean, he still is with Jay Kelly and whatnot, but they both are. But this is at a time where that indie feel, that indie film isn't quite doing a ton. So for them to make these really awe-inspiring stories, Francis Ha is a lot of people I know's favorite film.
Yeah,
I mean, that type of thing.
That has a lot of fans, man.
Did you guys just connect in New York? Like, you guys were friends, and then kind of...
I was living in this apartment at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So Greta and Sam Lysenko, who's a production designer, who did this movie. He did Uncut Gems. He just did M. Night Shyamalan's new movie. And we were living together in that apartment. So they needed some help, and I remember Sam being like, "You should talk to the producer. Like, she needs some help." And so I did, and it was such a long shoot. It was a 50-day shoot.
Whoa, for Francis Ha?
Yeah. And I think something like some cast element had dropped out on the movie that Noah was doing that was going to be like a follow-up to Greenberg, which is, you know, those are bigger shows. I don't know exactly how much money, but bigger union model. And suddenly he wasn't making a movie. And, you know, I always give a lot of credit to, okay, well, let's, like, what can we make, you know? And to not say I'm only going to make another movie if I can make something that's as big as the last movie that I did. I mean, it was a big... I think that movie got him a ton of new fans, you know, and sort of birthed like a new a shift in his career.
I love when directors do that. I love when they go back down into the trenches, whether it's a logistical choice or an artistic choice. I was thinking about that with Bradley Cooper recently. He did his new film. Is This Thing Still On? Is This Thing On? And I love that. I love that he can go from something, like,
Maestro.
Bernstein, Maestro, and then go to that, and it feels so grounded and so home. And I love when they do that. No, Baumbach's definitely a guy who, Austin and I love Marriage Story so much, but to see that guy, them shift from something like that to Barbie, and to go back down into the trenches and do other things. I think that's crucial.
He hasn't quite gone back into the trenches after Barbie.
Yeah, you might be right.
He likes it.
I mean, she's doing the Chronicles of Narnia right now, and he did Jay Kelly. That's not quite the trenches.
Yeah,
you're right.
I think maybe that's what he needs.
Maybe that's what he needs to go back down.
But for me, it was incredible. It was empowering to see what you could do with a crew that was small enough to fit in a van and a DSLR camera.
Yeah.
We shot that on the 5D Mark II, very small team. And then you go and, you see the movie with an audience and people have this incredible response to it. Nobody's thinking about how it was only made by 10 people in a van,
No, there's a cathartic experience because, again, I think it feels grounded. I mean, to me, Frances Ha feels like a French New Wave film, and where it feels artsy and it has that tonality and that texture to it, but she's though quirky and whatnot, she's a very relatable character and going through real life stuff, and I think people see themselves in that kind of thing. It really grounds it for people.
But that really just shaped everything that I did because knowing that's possible makes you say, well, okay, if that's possible, then I don't need to chase some other idea of what makes a movie a real movie, right? I think a lot of people get convinced that it's not a real movie unless you have, this much equipment or this tier of actor,
right.
or or this many trucks, right?
I can't tell you how many times we've bought Little Caesars pizzas and got together a crew of 10 and made something that we just thought was special that we could do for a few $100 or whatever. And then go on the opposite side of that where it's like, well, no, we need the 30-person crew for these specific situations.
We're gonna splurge
it makes
a little
you
bit.
such a strong producer to be able to know that atmosphere where it's like if you strip down everything, like any challenge that comes by, I can get by with nothing. And I'll still
we've
be
done
fine
it for nothing. So the minute
to
that gets
some
stripped
degree,
away, that's true. That's true to kind of be on both sides of the equation. Now, as your career progresses, you get into bigger territory. I mean, it's no small feat to do something like Uncut Gems or to do something like Good Time. I mean, these are, though on paper, something like Good Time is maybe, it's two characters in a gas station bathroom. I mean, on paper it sounds simpler, but I know, it's Robert Pattinson at the other day. You have to bring something special to the table, right? And not just the material, but crew. I mean, this is
I gotta say, this is one of my favorite films.
He absolutely loves this one. I mean, but you have to bring that level of intensity and the production value is there. Whether we see that behind the camera or not, the production value for something like Good Time is there. Do you feel like as your career progressed, you started understanding the difference of what the film needs?
That's the one as a producer I'm the most proud of, just because it represents so much of my New York filmmaking experience.
Oh, really?
We shot in all 5 boroughs. It is a non-union movie. It probably it plays like a bigger film, but we were,
which is amazing.
I think it feels like pushing the punk rock DIY non-union model as far as we could. And the fact that Rob was down, Rob was excited about it. He wanted the movie to be good. He was willing to do anything. That's a very powerful thing to took away from that. I don't think any of us on that movie, and it represents a big a big moment for a lot of Miyako Belizzi did the costumes. She was nominated this year. It was one of her first movies. Jen Venditti did casting. She was nominated this year. You had a lot of people working incredibly hard, and it was that's I think part of why it's so good is because even if we didn't have a lot of money, you had incredibly talented people.
How does something like that spring up? Because if we look at the big picture, at least from an outsider point of view, I think we align with you because we're those guys where we consider ourselves outside of the system, doing films on our own kind of accord, but at the same time, films like the Safdie brothers did extremely well for themselves. I mean, now they're chasing individual things that they're very passionate about and getting nominated for Academy Awards for it. But at the same time, you have this ability to say, I like doing my thing and I don't need the system or to chase the system. I just want to chase good storytelling. And I think they're not mutually exclusive, but it's pretty fascinating to see the trajectory of your career and be like, man, I mean, now these kinds of films are getting recognized a little more. I think a Marty Supreme directly aligns with something like A Good Time. And not just because it's one of the filmmakers behind it, but I think a lot about Sean Baker right now and how well he's doing. Honora getting the Academy Award, but him coming from that same, Rough Knocks, school. Do you feel like, are we living on an exciting time for filmmakers like us that are just like, we just need the pedigree information. What does this film need? And we'll work on that and we'll build it ourselves, because the studio system, our industry is in such transition that I think it's the Wild West again. And we get to dictate how we make movies kind of moving forward at this point. Do you feel like it's an exciting time because of that as kind of an indie guy coming from that world? Or you've also been on the other side and worked with people like A24 and did something like, like Uncut Gems, which generates more resources, generates more, reach, I think a lot of the times. Which side of this equation do you feel like is more exciting for you, and is it defining kind of the industry right now?
I definitely think that my kind of filmmaking that I like to see as an audience is going to be the stuff that has a lot of voice, and you're like, okay, this is. I can't wait to see what Nick Winding Refn does next. That's always been going back to why did I want to do this? It was because I wanted to be like those people, right? I wanted to participate in that world. I think it's never been harder to get people's attention, right? So it's a really tricky time for if you don't have the marketing budget. How are you going to? I used to think that like making the movie was the hard part. It's actually like getting people to watch it. Getting people who might like it to know about it. That is really hard. And so I think there's something exciting about the YouTube filmmakers who are bringing their own audiences into the movie theater. That's exciting.
You think that we're stepping away from having to have half of the budget just for marketing? You think we have to like go more or less just to get it out there, or you think that formula is not working anymore?
I think that's tough. Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I would love to have a Wuthering Heights type of budget. That'd be amazing. Right. But it sort of it speaks to a different time.
Exactly.
I feel like we're sort of going towards two kinds of movies, like the IMAX type of thing,
the event film,
Project Hail Mary, right? Like, and then people who are where it's almost more like a podcaster, or that idea that if you have 5,000 fans who will show up for you, like you can make a living doing what you're doing.
And that's all we want. At the end of the day, we're like, look, if we could pay our bills just doing our films that generate enough just to keep the lights on, I mean, that's all we care about on our end. Now, I
think like the sort of director or writer that was more about getting hired because this person's good, like the craft of it. That's gonna be, I feel bad, or I feel like that kind of role is gonna be less and less in demand.
Sure.
Because it's like,
wow.
unless you're gonna go do like The Mandalorian, things where it's big IP.
Yeah.
Somebody like Sean Baker doesn't want to do it.
No.
So you need people who are competent,
Oh, I see what
but
you're saying,
like,
yeah.
but aren't expecting to put their own vision on it.
No, that's fair. I mean,
But we used to have lots of people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So the fact that the industry, it does say a lot about where things are going,
Yeah.
and that we are in sort of this declining moment.
yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. But you said something to me, a few days back, which is very insightful and very encouraging to indie guys like us, which was, dude, the formula is there is no formula. You said something to me along the lines of like, when we did I forget which one you mentioned to me that you did with the Safdies. You're like, we did that, and that cost 150 grand, and then that caught that caught Robert's attention, Pattinson's attention, and then we did that for a little more money, and then that caught Sandler's attention, and then you said, dude, we had prepared Uncut Gems first, like
Right.
that came first in the lineup, and then until we caught Sandler's attention, did it become feasible to
Yeah,
make
we
this
had
film?
to make 2 other movies in order to make Uncut Gems,
Right, yeah.
And I think that's credit to Safdies being again, also like being filmmakers, and I think it can be dangerous to just like wait and wait and wait, and the more time that you wait, or the more time that you're like sitting around convincing yourself that the budget's going to come together for the movie that you want to make, you're missing out on opportunities to make something else, right? Which that's the only way you learn who you are as a filmmaker, and you improve is to make more things. I think a lot of people get stuck in the money raising stage.
So, just to help us transition over, what made this film like this was the right time to make it? Or I mean, it feels very contemporary. It feels very.
It feels like the perfect time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a perfect time for perfect clash in everything.
And we're talking about your film,
Our Hero
Balthazar. I mean, what made you say it's time for me to make this film at this time and for me to direct it?
That's a heavy question.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's really after Gems, I wanted to do my own thing, and I sort of thought that it would come a lot quicker. Then the pandemic happened, and
Strikes. And,
yeah, but it was great in that Ricky and I started writing together, and we wrote one movie that I thought was going to be the first thing that I directed, and I put a lot of work into it. It remains probably the thing that's been prepped out the most, animatics and everything that I haven't made. I like believing that everything I put work into is going to get made, but ultimately that one I had to set it aside, and we started working on Our Hero Balthazar, and there was a little bit of design to it in that I just felt like the failure of that other movie. Why was I being arrogant, thinking that I could raise money for that other movie? Why didn't it come together? Where did I get stuck? And part of it was like, well, let's make a movie about young people, because I know that I'm not going to get. I know that I can find some younger actors who are excited about doing a small movie.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got like a guy in his 30s or 40s who's the lead in your movie, those guys are in the prime of their careers. They're getting big paychecks, and it's much harder to compete. Whereas with Jaden and Asa, they're great actors, but the timing was such that I don't think anyone else was offering them a chance to do something different.
Well, I'd love to say this. Like, the minute we started screening the film, I mean, the immediate thing, because you were so kind enough to send me like the one sheet and everything about the film and the IMDb and everything, and I wanted to go into this blind, and I wanted to experience this. I think the only thing I caught was like a blurb out of the Wall Street Journal or somebody was singing high praises for it, but I was like, I want to see this film. I want to experience this film, blindly. Then the immediate thing is, oh, it's the kid from It. Okay, cool. Like, that's cool. And then, I don't know, halfway through the film, I'm like seeing, and obviously the Solomon character comes out, and I'm a massive Scorsese fan. Like, he's my hero. He's my cinematic hero. And Hugo is one of my all-time favorite films, like so much so that I have part of it tattooed on my arm. But I'm like, no. So then I get on the IMDb when I'm watching the film. I'm like, oh, shit, it's House of Butterfield. Like, what in the hell? And he's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Because he's he's British, and he's playing a North Texan with an accent and red hair. And I mean, it was an incredible performance from this cast. You had an incredible, and then as the film rolls on, it's like, wait, that's the mom from Freaks and Geeks playing the grandma, and she's incredible at what she's doing. They're playing these unconventional roles that people are used to seeing them in, and it seems like they're having a great time doing it. I mean, you had an electrifying cast for this film, and
thank you.
Though maybe known for different things, and that just, I think, is a credit to them being good actors and getting different opportunities.
Exactly.
But I'm
And
positive
also,
they jump into something like this with an exciting bone in their body.
Even if you recognize the actors, like we did, like we had that initial kind of moment, you start sinking into the characters because they're just portraying them so strongly. I mean, all these social media like posts where he's crying, you're invested in who this character is, and you're spending so much time trying to understand them, and you feel that with everybody, and you're finding the parallels on, like, oh man, I can see those, especially like you were talking about the Dallas stuff. Like I've seen these characters.
I know
before.
these
I've been to
characters.
the
I
bars.
know these guys.
Yeah, the motivational speakers and testosterone and poster films. Like you've seen
every
this,
day.
so it was so cool to just feel those parallels. But it's just because of casting.
What I love about our hero Balthazar, to your point, is this made me wonder, like a Scorsese film, like, am I supposed to be rooting for any of these guys? Because I kind of don't want to, but I want the kid to get the girl. He's just not going about it the right way. He's really pushing something else, and it is a commentary on our society. And I thought it was, we were on edge for this entire thing. And by the way, like, I love the Safdies, love what they've done for cinema. My wife cannot watch a Safdie brothers film because she's on edge the entire time. We went to go watch Marty Supreme in the theater, and she's like, I got to get out of here. How much time is left on this thing? Uncut Gems is a similar experience, and I think your film you obviously have experience living in a world like that, and maybe even just your sensibilities and loving films like this, but we definitely felt that watching this. We were sitting around, like, I think we took like a bathroom break halfway through, and we were like, all right, you guys ready to get back in?
Yeah.
We're getting back in because you want to root for these kids. They're so young. They have their lives ahead of them. They seem like they had a promise, and then they didn't. And they both just want a different kind of attention. They're both from opposite sides of the tracks. This film, I think, has a lot to say about our society right now. And these actors, I'm sure even your crew were like, this is important. I just want to be a part of this thing. I don't care how much the budget is. Like, let's just go in head first in this thing. Do you feel like you had that experience making the film?
I think the actors, yeah, like when you're trying to raise money, there a lot of financiers will just like ask the kinds of questions that can be so demoralizing, or start to gaslight you into believing that your movie is more provocative or more like topical than you ever really intended, or ever thought it was. So then when you hand it off to actors and they humanize it, instead of being afraid of certain words that maybe the financiers will respond to with fear, like these actors take those words and they make them human. And so that was a really encouraging moment that I'll remember. Like, get the script to actors. They light you up, and it's so encouraging. Yeah. Whereas financiers can be the opposite.
It can be so crushing. It can be so crushing.
That's why I wanted to ask. Like, some of these scenes are so awkwardly intense and chaotic. Did you allow some of them like to improvise? Because it just feels so real. Like, me as an actor, I'm like, man, is he really going over the edge?
I don't like to. I mean, part
know-
of it is always meeting the actor. Where
Absolutely.
everybody's different and has a different style, and I was really fortunate that all of the actors in this cast like to rehearse, so we could do that work and try maybe some improvising in those situations.
Did you have a good amount of time of rehearsal time? Like considering, I mean, you had
Okay,
a,
With
so then
Jaden
it
and
definitely-
Asa, we did 2 weeks of rehearsal.
oh wow,
It definitely
that's great.
shows. It definitely shows because I was just like, that's too real.
Yeah,
The way
You
it
don't-
comes across.
I think I mean, they're both great. I wouldn't call either of them like master improvisers, which is fine.
Was there any
right?
sense
Yeah,
of
that
like-
means you're just good at your craft. Yeah.
Was there
Yeah,
any sense of
but it'd
method?
be interesting to work with somebody who is like that.
Yeah.
Just naturally.
Yeah.
Was there any sense of them having anything in terms of like the typical kind of method acting thing, like where they're like, I want to do this or I want to do this to,
Which could get scary.
or was it no? I know this character. Let's do the work. Let's.
I mean, that rehearsal period was so great because you try to create a space where there's just a lot of trust,
That's
right?
where I preach,
and
yes.
and love and
Yeah.
and you can take risks and you can fail and it's okay, you know, and you can ask questions, and I think of it kind of like it's where you're trying to give the actor enough, you know, become the authority over the character,
Sure.
so that they can say things like, oh, I don't think Balthazar would do that, you know, and you're like, yeah, you're right, thank you, you are now the authority on the character,
Oh wow.
and so I try to get everybody to that place.
Yeah.
And you know, I always feel bad when actors like show up in the movie, you know, maybe you're on like day 20 or something and everybody kind of knows their role and this person has just walked in and
Yeah.
I like they might have a question, but you know, you kind of don't want to ask because these guys are racing through shots and
Yeah.
like I always want that person to be able to ask because that's the beauty of acting. They're bringing their own perspective to the character, which can be tremendously embarrassing if you don't have all the information that you
Right.
should have.
You got to be
So,
prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can only be prepared if it's the director's job is to make sure that like to protect them from a failure or an inconsistency
Sure.
or like something that isn't right for the performance, the character.
Once
you know?
you
So they
give them
don't
the
look bad,
authority,
yeah.
once you transfer, you're a writer director, so you quite literally, this character comes from inside of you. Once you transfer ownership, now it's your responsibility to make sure it rings true for the sake of the actor, for the sake of your film. But that transferring ownership is like, okay, they have to feel like they can trust you, but you also have to feel like you can trust them.
Yeah.
There has to be a
Fascinating.
strong connection there. And it seems like you got that from these actors.
I love. I mean, this is like a dream cast between
Yes.
Becky Ann Baker, like you said, Jennifer Ely, Chris Bauer, Noah Centineo, Danny McCarthy. You know, Pippa Knowles. It's her first movie. Anna Baryshnikov is an amazing actress. Avin Jogia. We had and then you know a lot of the Texas folks here, like Eric and James.
Yeah.
They were actually people who lived at the trailer park where Solomon's character
Wow.
lives.
Nice.
So we got, I think, having, you know, putting Asa in a situation where he's acting with them is I think that helps him. That's a sort of rehearsal in itself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Part of the preparation. But I loved it too because it made that location that much richer.
Sure.
I know it's kind of like a left field question. Why does Solomon have this infatuation with a Phantasm character?
Jimmy Phantasm?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Like Danny Phantom.
Yeah, like Danny Phantom.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why specifically that was like
Great question.
the little, I don't know, gem in
Nuance.
his heart. Yeah. Is that to humanize him? Is that to make him like, oh, there's just a kid at heart that's
A kid at
The
heart.
transition?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think of it as kind of as a reminder that he is just a kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think there's a stunted sort of development in him, right? Like, I think you meet people who might be 20 years old, but they're sort of frozen in like a 12-year-old's mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What I love about that dynamic is that it didn't matter. One of them is rich, one of them is poor, and it didn't matter. They're both emotionally stunted, and they're not getting the direction because maybe their parents don't have those capabilities, or they're just not as invested. Or in the case of Solomon, I mean, he lives with his grandmother. His dad's a nut job, and his mom's not around, and that kind of thing. But it didn't matter. Both of them found each other because of it, because of their loneliness, and because of the need for friendship, and because they have this awkward streak with society that they just don't want to deal with them, but they somehow find through this unorthodox way of finding friendship, and connect that way, connect through their loneliness, and connect through the like, well, you just want a friend, right? I just want a friend. We're both a little fucked up, but this friend thing feels good. This friendship thing feels good. I love that dynamic. I really love that. The conversation when he's running in the field and he's like, what did you say about being a friend? You wanted to be my friend. And that was the I want moment, right? That was the arc. I love that. I really love that.
I have a question. Do you think the main character is a victim of the internet, or he's feeding into the machine?
I think you can't help but feed into the machine because the internet is, anything that you say to it or anything that you're feeling, as vile and disgusting as it might be, there's somebody on the internet who's going to validate it and make you feel like it's
scary.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there was that shooting in British Columbia earlier this year, where it was revealed that the shooter had gone on ChatGPT. Like people at ChatGPT knew that this kid was asking about doing a shooting, and nobody said anything. Right? Like that says it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. But I also think these are with Balthazar and with Solomon. These are kids. Their brains are still developing, right? Like we can do better than just trying to make money off them, which is what these companies.
Now you're currently at a stage where you're taking the film around and you're getting to talk to audiences about it.
Yeah.
What is the consensus you're hearing? Because you're not. I mean, I'm sure you have a social media presence, and the film has a social media presence. There's talk online, I know, but you're going into the theater with people and screening this film and having Q&As and talking to them, and I'm sure they're coming up to you after the screening and being like, like their experiences with this kind of thing, or just people online and comments online and that kind of thing. What do you feel the consensus is, or what people are gravitating towards or afraid of for a story like this?
I mean, the response from young people, Gen Z in particular, has just been tremendous. We've got people who have seen the movie like 8 times in New York.
Hell yeah.
Lots of multiple viewings. I think Gen Z in particular, I don't blame them for feeling underrepresented by pop culture. I think most of the Gen Z like characters that they see in TV and movies feel like something their parents or their grandparents came up with. So, and those were the kinds of movies that Ricky and I loved and bonded over when we first met. Were movies that felt authentic, movies that are funny but also kind of leave you feeling angry.
Sure.
And so many kids come up to me after the movie and are just like, hey, like you really like tapped into how my friends and I feel, which is amazing. Yeah. And we're never trying to write like a Gen Z movie, which is probably why they feel that way, because it's much more based around, I think, feelings and experiences that anybody
Yeah.
you know, that's gone through those years of their life.
It's a
have felt.
societal aspect, and come on, let's face it. There's 50-year-olds on the internet doing similar things. There's people on there either performing or not, and you can decide which one that is. But it's not an age thing. I mean, there's a stronger presence with the Gen Z kids, but everybody's on the internet doing crazy shit. And
Yeah.
I think
They're just more vulnerable.
can figure
for
out.
sure.
It just opens up the conversation that younger people feel like they don't even know what relationship they're having with the internet anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what
Wow,
it's done to us having like our phones at all times
Yes.
and having these social media icons and all that kind of stuff. And you connect with somebody who like, you know, he was in New York and then flew all the way over to Texas and this little area because of like he was texting a rando and like kind of rage baiting him, and it's weird. But in that we're able to have a conversation afterwards. Like I remember after watching the film, it was like, oh man, like this feels so real, and it's hard to say that, or it's a conversation most people don't have on like the disconnect we feel, even though we're in such a connected world, at least digitally.
Oscar, our litmus test for cinema as filmmakers and as cinephiles tends to be, me especially as a director, is like if I made you feel something, whatever that something is, that's kind of up to you. But I've done my job. If I've made you feel something, and our hero Balthazar certainly made us feel a lot of emotions, man. So I applaud you for this film, and and you've been extremely generous with your time, and I know we got to get you to the next city. So can you tell? I'm going to ask you two things. One, let people know what the trajectory is for this film moving forward, where they can screen it. You're hitting a bunch of different cities. It's playing in New York consistently. Let them know where they can screen this film, because it's certainly something people have to see and experience for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, go to ourherobalthazar.com. We update the site all the time with wherever the movie's screening, all over the country. Right now we're in New York. We're at locations in Texas and Austin and Lubbock and here in El Paso.
Sweet.
Northern San Francisco, Los Angeles. But yeah, we're always updating. We're always booking, and in some cases even, you know, fans hear about the movie, and have said, "Hey, can you put it in my theater?" And that leads to a booking. So it's very grassroots. And
Dude, you mentioned the Angelica Center, both in Dallas and in New York and stuff like that. I mean, I love that place. I love that, what they stand for.
Yeah.
These theaters that show these kinds of films. It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday about the screening, and we were talking about American Animals and how much parallels there were with a film like that in your film. And I saw American Animals at the Angelica Center too. Like there was only a handful of people screening it around town and that kind of thing. So to see that there's theaters championing this film is very cool.
Yeah. And I think we'll just keep on booking more. We just announced a bunch of dates in Canada.
Very cool.
Awesome.
So we'll be in Toronto and Vancouver next month.
Big cities, hell yeah.
We'll be in Athens, Greece next week.
Wow.
For any Greeks tuning in. Yeah.
For something I love that you guys did, I was telling you before we rolled, was like our hero, so to speak, has his own social media that you can follow. You can follow Balthazar.
B-Boy Malone 212.
You can follow him on Instagram. No,
Come
not
on.
kidding. You can follow
That's not
Balthazar
an
on
experience
Instagram
with the film.
and follow the trajectory of this
He might
character.
have 100,000 followers now.
Wow.
No way.
Experience it.
I mean, go check it out. It
Experience
is becoming so interactive with this film, and again, there's a commentary to that, and cinema does that best. So. We can't thank you enough, man, for being
Thanks
on the
for having
show.
me.
And again, we could keep this conversation going.
I
But
know,
we got to get you going. But thank you for doing this, and I'm sure we'll have you
Absolutely.
back on the show because you're going to keep making films, and we all constantly we're talking about like this is incredible. I'm excited for what he's going to keep doing with this film, but I'm excited for what he's doing next. So hopefully soon we'll hear some updates on what you got going on next as well.
100%.
Very exciting stuff you're doing, Oscar. So thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Let
Thanks, guys.
people know if you can encourage filmmakers out there to keep doing their thing. Any advice you have for them before we wrap this up?
I just say, you know, don't wait around for the money that somebody's telling you that you need to make your movie. If you make something for $5 and it's good, somebody will want to give you $50 or $500 for the
That's
next thing, and if that's good, someone will want to give you $5,000. So just keep making, because waiting around can be demoralizing.
I love that.
Live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, Mr. Oscar Boyson has been on the TowerCast this week, so thank you for being on there.
Guys.
So much.
Please continue following the trajectory of Our Hero Balthazar. It really is something that I think was extremely well put together and made in Texas. 80% of the film was made in Texas, and it's encouraging for us as filmmakers here in Texas to like see this thing and see a lot of the actors that we like grew up watching, and it's a very cool film.
Yeah.
But it's a commentary on something important, so go check it out. And it's not trying to be political, and it's not trying to to pander to anything. It's just naturally talking about a subject that's very relevant in our time today, with these incredibly deep characters, very layered characters. So please, we encourage you to go watch it. It's screening all over the country. And again, we thank Oscar for being here today. Stay tuned for other guests we got coming up on the podcast, and keep making your films. We constantly encourage you guys. If we could do it, you guys could do it. And Oscar's a clear indication here that as long as we keep making our films, we'll be all right. So thank you for tuning into the TowerCast Podcast. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Love you guys.